Now for our final demonstration, we're going to look at how we can create our own custom GRUB2 entries. We've seen that the GRUB2 environment is just a little bit more complex, and that of course then carries forward into when we're creating our own custom entries. So let's take a look at how easily we can actually achieve this. So here we are at my server console. And if I go through and just take a look at a file that I've already prepared, it's in my home directory. And of course it doesn't need to be here, and you'll see how we'll get it to the right location in a few moments. But if I cat out just a file that I've called custom, we can then start to look at the internals of a menu entry. So instead of the plain stanzas that we used to deal with within the GRUB legacy, we now have menu entries, and we define the start and stop within our brace bracket. So here's my opening brace bracket and here's the closing brace bracket. We can see the menu name. I've just called it CentOS Custom here. When we go through and take a look at what's happening, we're loading some modules, and there are a lot more modules that's available, and this really gives a lot of power through to our GRUB2. Especially as it's able to access a variety of different file systems, so we're less of a need to actually partition the boot directory up separately. We can see that we're setting the root, so it's going to be the first partition on the first drive. And notice the MS-DOS1, well that's then just saying that it's an MBR record that we're looking at, a master boot record disk. We've got our kernel and RAM disk entries. The kernel entry is defined by the Linux 16 line and our RAM disk by the init RD16 line. Now of course when we're looking at my configuration file, you're welcome to copy it, but make sure that you actually put the correct paths through to your kernels. I've changed the end of the options, so again I've just taken out the options for the RHGB and the quiet. But then once we've got the entry configured the way that we want, we can then go through and move into the etc/grub.d directory. We're just in this directory looking at our users file. We're going to go in and take a look now at the 40 custom file. So we're going to go through and vi40_custom. I'm going to go down to the end of the file, so capital G can take me to the end of the file, and I'm just going to read in that file that we were looking at before. So I can then escape, read, and /root/custom, the name of the file. So now we've read that menu entry file in. We could of course put multiple menu entries here, but I'm just going to leave the one menu entry in place. Once we're ready with this, and as it says at the top, don't delete the top line. We need that to be in place, but we'll go through and make a save to this file. And of course now we know we're going to use Control and R to reverse search our bash history. And we're going to look at then the mkc for muckconfig. So we're actually now running the grub2 -muckconfig -o. And of course, I know it's taken me a long time to explain what's going on, but when you get used to this, this really speeds up your command line usage. So with that done, let's clear out of the screen, and of course we're going to need to go through and reboot our system. So moving across then to my console machine, and we'll issue the reboot command, and we can see now we've got the custom entry as our last entry. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of how we can manage and work with the GRUB bootloader. But let's go back to the slides now so we can summarize a little of what we've looked at.